My name is Kim Barker. I have nothing much to say. They lost my luggage today. I left my computer in the taxi. It has not been a good morning.
Well, your luck is about to change with this here interview.
Exactly.
That's right. Welcome back to Seattle, by the way.
Thanks for having me back.
Let's just kind of sort of a preliminary stuff.
Yeah.
You have a little history here in Seattle. Why don't you give us a quick sort of a rundown of why you know Seattle as well as you do know Seattle?
I worked as a reporter for the Seattle Times between 1998 and the year 2000.
And how could you have possibly left our wonderful clime?
I really did not want to leave Seattle, actually. Yeah. It was my dream job, working for great editors and great people, but the newspaper strike happened. I kind of just left during that period of time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the reason you're here, the reason you're in town, I guess tomorrow night you'll be here in person with talking about this book, The Taliban Shuffle: Strange Days in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Yes.
I want to just first off ask you, it's a great read. It's very entertaining. It's also serious at times. I want to ask you straight off, talk about the title, the significance of the title, which I think is a very catchy title and actually works quite well.
Well, I mean, I called it the Taliban Shuffle because that's what I referred to what I did back and forth between Pakistan and Afghanistan, just shuffling back and forth across the border, covering the Taliban on both sides of the border. That's what the other journalists did. It's also what the Taliban did. I mean, we kind of play a big, giant game of whack an insurgent over there, like whack-a-mole, where we hit them on one side of the border and they pop up on the other side. And it's very much what they do. This border is a very fluid place. So I called it for that reason, but then it's also a soundtrack. Every single chapter title in the book is a different song in the Taliban Shuffle. Starting off with Welcome to the Terror Dome and ending with Hotel California, because you can check out of Afghanistan, but you can never really leave.
Now, does this have movie possibilities? Because I can certainly hear that as a soundtrack for this.
Right. Yeah, it definitely has movie possibilities. I think it would be a great movie.
There you go. Okay, Hollywood, are you listening? Yeah. Okay, now there are a lot of experiences. There are a lot of things that make your experience unique. I mean, we've been in Afghanistan and Pakistan for a good decade now. It feels like. Right. What makes your take distinct comes from a number of different angles, but I think the most significant to me, at least as a reader, is that you're a woman. And you're an American woman. And you're an American woman in Muslim countries. And you're an American woman in Muslim countries in a war zone, basically. Can you talk about that aspect of your experience there, life as a woman journalist, as opposed to, say, your male counterparts?
It's difficult because I've never had the male experience to contrast it with. Okay. But I can say it was different in both Pakistan and Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, I felt like being a female reporter was a great advantage. In Pakistan at times as well, because we were not seen as like the local women. We were not seen as foreign men. We were seen as this kind of third sex. So we got access to 100% of the population. So we could talk to both women and men, whereas the male reporters could really only talk to the men. And then we got kind of special access to certain, leaders in Afghanistan and Pakistan, for that matter, and access to warlords and even conservative clerics. I think because they were kind of charmed and curious about women running around the countryside. I would say some of the best journalists over there are actually women, which surprises people.
Yeah. So why didn't they see you as she-devils?
Because I'm really nice.
I see.
I mean, I think there is definitely the tendency in Pakistan, because Pakistan's obviously much more modern, and it's much like India, and there is a sense where some folks there associate Western women with Hollywood movies and what the movies that they've seen that portray women in a certain vein. Like ready to jump into bed at the quickest moment. So you definitely have to deal with that sense in places in Pakistan.
One of my favorite lines in the book, and there are lots of great lines, but one of my favorite lines, and this is in Pakistan, you said, "I punched him in the face." Do you want to talk about that incident or not?
Oh my God, yeah. I went on a punching spree for a while. I should point out that at points in this book, I am most definitely not likable. And I really try to show both the downward spiral in Afghanistan and Pakistan and the downward spiral of covering a war for that long. But yeah, there were definitely points when I was getting grabbed in protests where I would just start wailing on guys. I would catch their hand and I just hit him in the face and create scenes. In one case, when the Chief Justice was having a rally, and he was at that time the most popular guy in the country, and I had really wanted to get into his car, right? I called everybody I knew. I'd said, look, can I ride with the Chief Justice? And they're saying, you're with the Chicago Tribune, and no, you can't, because nobody gets to ride with the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice does not do interviews with reporters. Mm-hmm. So I'm outside the car, and I'm getting grabbed, and I'm basically punching people left and right. They'd send out lawyers to protect me, but the lawyers are about as effective as, like, the country's defenses or legal system. And, people keep pinching me, and I keep punching. So at a certain point, they just opened up the car, and they said, Kim, get in. So, I get into the car, and then I'm sitting there with the Chief Justice and his lawyer, and his lawyer's driving, and his lawyer just says, Kim, do not talk to the Chief Justice. Do not try to interview the Chief Justice. You just keep quiet and stay in the car, and we'll let you out after this is all over. And I said, well, what if the Chief Justice wants to talk to me? Which got a laugh. And eventually we did get some quotes from him. And I got a couple other friends in the car as well through the same, rear end excuse.
And that wouldn't have happened if you were a man.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably
Another great incident, again, along on this, you're more than just a female journalist, but the female aspect is what's amusing, I think, in a lot of times. Talk about the burka incident that you had. And this is now in Afghanistan.
Right. Well, this would have been in June of 2006, and it was right when things were getting bad in Afghanistan and getting much more dangerous, and the Taliban was starting to mount its comeback in the South particularly. So my translator / fixer / local journalist, Farouk, who became one of my closest friends in Afghanistan, and he's actually one of the major characters in the book, he had to come to me and say, Kim, it's time, I hate to ask you this, but I need you to wear a burqa on the way between Kabul and Kandahar. And he felt really bad about this because all of his, the women in his family, his mother, his sister, they had taken off their burqas after the Taliban left. Even though he was a Pashtun male, he was very liberal. So, he grabs me a burqa. I said, fine, whatever you say, Farouk, I want to be safe. He offered to grab me a burqa, shows up the next day, throws it at me, and I wore it, but it was basically too short. It hit me in the back of the knees, and it was barely to my waist in front, and it was really tight on my head, and I was basically walking around Kandahar wearing the Afghan equivalent of a miniskirt, and these elders would say things to me like, well, we think it's really great you're wearing that, but isn't it kind of short? Is that the fashion in Kabul now? And so I was trying to wear the right thing, but I ended up wearing the wrong one.
And you even put in contacts to change the color of your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems pretty extreme.
Oh, no. I mean, according to Farouk, and it's kind of obvious when you look at me from a car, the only thing that makes me stand out are my blue eyes. I mean, I've got dark hair, so if I'm wearing a headscarf and I've got brown contact lenses in, I just look like anybody else. Yeah. So it's actually a pretty good disguise.
And what did it feel like wearing the burqa?
Actually, everybody, we always talk about, and I think Western journalists are obsessed with the burqa, and we're obsessed with what women in Islamic countries and Muslim countries wear. And I put it on and I expected to feel oppressed, and I felt kind of suffocated at first, but you had to learn how to breathe through it. But then there was some aspect of it that was quite liberating, because the first time since I came there, nobody was staring at me from outside the window. It was like I blended in, like I was just anybody else, and I could finally just be an observer and not have to worry about being the center of attention. So it's not like I would want to wear one every day, but I could see why a woman would choose to wear one in Afghanistan, most definitely.